Hello, my name is Ward Schrader. I'm co-host of the HGTV show Bargain Mansions with my daughter Tamara. Tamara designs a lot of shelving into homes that is freestanding or floating, as they call it, is popular. And I just thought maybe today I'd show you how we do some of those things because it's really an easy project. This shelf I installed in less than an hour. Built and installed in less than an hour, and I think it looks great. When it gets done being painted, you're going to love it. All right, today these are the tools I'm going to be using. A drill, some drill bits, some clamps. May or may not use the square. This is a rasp that I may use for on the dowels to, if they're a little tight, I'll slim them down a little bit by just working that over it. The handsaw, the level, and my trusty old tape measure that I always use. So what we're doing here is we are going to make a floating shelf by drilling holes into this side of it, the back side of the shelf itself. We're going to drill them about 4.5 inches deep. After we get them about 4.5 inches deep, I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut off 1 3/4 inches of this baseboard. Then I'm going to drill it out for a set of screws to go into studs in my wall, and I'm going to anchor this 1 3/4 by 48-inch piece to the wall with those screws. Then I'm going to put the dowels into this small piece, and then I'm going to take the rest of the shelf. I'm going to put glue in the holes. I'm going to force the shelf onto the dowels, and we're going to have a floating shelf that nobody's going to know that it was screwed to the wall. So with that, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. I want this to be as square as I can. It's critical that the holes be relatively straight to each other. Not perfect, but relatively. So I'm going to use a set of clamps here that I'm going to attach to the fence on my saw, and I'm going to get it so the board is pretty vertical. There, good and solid. Now I'm going to take a small bit and make what's called a pilot hole. And what the pilot hole does for me is it allows me to keep my big bit straight. Sometimes when you start drilling with a bigger bit, it wants to wander and go in crooked. We can't have it going crooked because if I had one dowel rod like this and another one over here like this, there's no way this is going to slide together. So I'm going to use just a small bit. And I'm going to drill a small hole. That's it. Now, I'm going to get my bigger bit. And I want this bit to go in as far as I can. So this bit measures, at this point, about 4.5 inches. That gives me 1 3/4 inches to put this board onto the wall, anchor screws in it, get it good and solid, and then another 3 inches will be in this board, which will support it nicely. Now, I'm also going to, when I get this small board cut, I'm going to tap it with a small drill again to put the screw all the way through it and countersink it. So I'll tap it with the small drill, and then I'll show you right here what I'm going to do. I would just drill far enough down that the head of the screw is sunk below the surface so that when the small piece and the large piece mate together, there's nothing in between them to not make that joint look smooth so that you won't even see that joint when it gets painted, or maybe even when I get it up, you won't see that joint. So with that, I'm ready to drill a few of the larger holes, and this thing is ready to go up. Okay, I've got all my holes drilled. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to cut off that 1 3/4. So I'm going to take this down. I'm going to set up my fence. I've already got the saw set so it barely runs through. Actually, that's a little high. Let's get it down a little bit. I don't relish the idea of cutting off a finger. So I like to keep that as low as I can so that it just barely gets to the through the wood I'm cutting. Now, I'm going to measure from the inside of this blade 1 3/4 and get my fence set up, and I am ready to cut. Okay, I'm ready now. I'm going to take this saw outside of my garage because it makes a big mess and I'm not interested in cleaning it up today. So just take a few minutes, I'll slide it out, you'll see me cut it. Super simple, and then we're going to take it inside and assemble the final shelf. Okay, so I've cut the small board, I've already put it up. I drilled several small holes, I countersunk them about 1/4 inch. This baby is tight, it's not going anywhere. The biggest thing I did that you'd need to know is that I measured it, I wanted it centered. So this wall is 71 inches, this board is 48 inches. So that leaves me 23 inches. So that means I set this board in 11.5 inches on each side. And it's perfect. So it couldn't be better. I leveled it up. I put one screw, so it wasn't terribly important to me within 1/2 inch or so of where it was from the ceiling. So what I did was I got it to the right dimension away from that corner. I put this screw in, got it good and tight, and then I leveled the board, and then I put 2 more screws in to secure this to the wall. And it is really secure. It's anchored to the studs with probably 2 inches of screw. So it's not going anywhere. So now all I have left is to put the shelf back onto the dowel rods. So I'm going to put a little glue onto it. Spread it around with my fingers just a little bit. I've got a wet rag down here to wipe my hands with so I don't get it all over the wood when I'm handling it. Although carpenter's glue is just Elmer's glue and it wipes right off. It's water soluble. So that's pretty easy. Now I'm going to put just a touch of glue into each of my holes. And I am ready to final assemble. Well, that's it. I'll sand these rubber mallet marks off a little bit. I'll just touch it with a sander, and then it's ready to paint. And this is your floating shelf, and that's how easy it was.